following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to Gate City Chronicles. I'm Kevin Avard, your host, and today I'm joined again with Fred Teeboom. He has been on the show before, and I'm welcoming you back. Thank you very much for coming back on the show, Fred.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, well, back when I first had you, we were talking about the completion of the New Hampshire Holocaust Memorial.
Yes.
And it is complete.
It is complete.
And the snow has melted.
You can actually go down and visit.
Now, where is this located at?
It's right opposite Seminole Plaza on Main Street.
Okay.
Just opposite side of Main Street, next to Steve King.
Next to Steve King. Now, how long did it actually take for this whole project from beginning to end?
4.5 years.
4.5 years.
Yep.
And now it's, anybody can visit it?
Anybody can visit. We still have to do some landscaping. It's just barely in. You know, landscaping takes a while.
Sure.
And we have to get it so that the maintenance is low. You know, nobody's going to go in there and mow the grass every week, that type of thing. It's not meant to be a high maintenance thing. It's a low maintenance thing.
Okay.
So my wife sort of still experiments with different kind of flowers to put
perennials.
in. Perennials. I don't know too much about flowers and landscaping. I'll leave that to my wife. And Nick Gagiano, the city Parks and Rec supervisor. He knows a lot about it, and he's been very helpful.
Yeah.
And Home Depot donated a lot of stuff that you find.
Home Depot.
Home Depot has been a big, big volunteer.
Nice. Are there any other sponsors that helped with this as well? Or?
Well, the city of Nashua.
City of
Nashua. They donated the park site. It's expensive. You know, the site, it's 18,000 square feet, so it's almost almost half an acre. Downtown property, that's expensive property.
Sure is.
Right next to the Selma Brook. I mean, it's a beautiful location. They donated that site. Now, when I say donate, we build it as a nonprofit corporation, a 501c3 tax-exempt corporation, which I formed. I'm the president of. But in our memorandum of agreement, we have a deal by which, if it's done, we donate it back to the city. And the city will maintain the property. And we are supposed to keep a maintenance fund of some amount.
How did this all come together? Why did you pick that site, or was it just an open site?
The site came to me because the work that was done by the Labyrinth, the Rotary group that created the Labyrinth on the other side. If you look at Selma Brook divides the property.
Yep.
It's called Rotary Common into two parts. And the Rotary Club donated quite a bit of money to clean up the site. And Kathy Hirsch got the site reserved. It belonged to the state as part of a mitigation deal. The state widened Highway 93. So this park was available. It's being developed. There's plans to just make it a public area in the area we were in. The Labyrinth people had first choice, and they picked the area where they are next to the Adult Learning Center. They wanted to be further back. When I looked at it, I said, hey, if they didn't want it, I'd certainly like to have it. And I approached the mayor. I was an alderman at the time, so I had some connections. And I approached the mayor, approached at that time the public works director, Kennison. And, you know, got pretty good reception about, you know, doing something with the site. And then, of course, I worked with John Weidman. I don't know if you know him or not.
I don't.
No. John Weidman is a wonderful guy. He's running and the big contributor for the symposium, Mary Goyette's symposium.
Oh.
I'm sure you know who Mary Goyette is.
I've seen references to it. I have not been in it.
Well, these people you ought to interview.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're in this sculpture symposium. And one of the symposium, when they unveiled there's a funny looking sculpture. Some people call it the clothespin. I think John calls it the opening of some kind, the gate opening, the gate city. When they dedicated a massive sculpture next to Revere College in the Rotary, as you go down Main Street South, and near Rotary, near Revere College. It's
right.
Okay. The only unveiling, I looked at that, and somehow, I had a eureka moment, an epiphany, and said, what if we created the Holocaust Memorial? I don't know. Don't ask me, Kevin, how this thought came to me. But I saw Wyman, who I didn't know, and said, John, my friend, how would you be interested in working with me on the Holocaust Memorial? He was immediately receptive.
Wow.
So we struck up a conversation. We had a few meetings, Dunkin' Donut, at his home. And he said, well, for a fistful of dollars, I'll create you something. So I donated him a fistful of dollars, not too much. And next thing I know, and John works lifetime, life size. He had this huge drawing, took over the entire wall in his living room. He invited my wife and I in and said, what do you think of that? That's how the concept of the walls came about. The concept of concentrating this memorial around the 6 death camps came from me.
And there's Auschwitz, there's...
There are 6 camps, okay? That's Auschwitz, Treblinka, Majdanek, Belzec, Chemno, and I forgot the 5th one. If you go down to 6 camps, these camps were in Poland, and they were created by the Nazis for the very specific purpose of transporting mostly Jews, but undesirable.
Gypsies as well, right?
Gypsies, homosexuals, political opponents, people that want to just eliminate.
Right.
Mostly Jews, 90%. Altogether in these 6 camps, 3 million people were killed. And it was a massive killing. They came off the trains, they set them up on a platform, they lined them up on a platform, and just about everyone was marched into, after waiting and standing around, and after a horrible train trip. You can imagine, my family was picked up. You can imagine being in these trains, and cattle trains, without food, without water, without sanitation, down the railroad, into one of these camps. We got in the camp, get off stand out on the siding. A lot of people died in these cattle carts. And then, women, children, babies, men, they were marched off, by the hundreds into these chambers. It was like a concrete square structure. Doors would lock. Cyclone B went down to shoot.
Yeah, I watched the
horrible.
I watched the movie recently. Not recently, maybe about a year and a half ago. It was The Boy with the Striped Pajamas.
Striped pajamas. Yeah, I have that movie.
And they showed how that they were marched in. Of course, I've seen other, a lot of historical things, and it blows your mind how not just one person. It wasn't just Hitler. Hitler had people working for him. He had a system, and he had a bunch of people blinded to the point where they could callously just look at somebody as able to destroy. Well, you don't fit into our program, therefore you will be eliminated. And
Kevin, I'm not a religious guy. As I said to you before the show,
Yeah.
I'm not a member of our synagogue. I'm not a practicing Jew. There was a while I was a Christian. When I was a child, my life was saved by very devout Christians, and I was a practicing Christian. Today I'm not practicing Jew, but I'm a Jew by faith. I absolutely believe in a God. But how these things happen, how I get involved with this, okay? Yeah, you ask me, how does it get started, okay? I cannot point my finger to a particular moment, except as follows. I've given this a lot of thought, I got involved for 4.5 years, 4.5 years of total, commitment to make this happen. Not every day of hard work, it's just that you have to get a lot of things in place, a lot of funding in place, a lot of volunteers in place, a lot of commitments in place, design in place. These things just don't happen. Kevin, I honestly think there was divine intervention in what happened. I honestly think, okay, God spoke to me. Now, God does not speak in American language or English language or Spanish or French. There are no spoken words when God speaks to you. It's a spirit. There's a command. It's sort of like a command that says, do this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that command can come from the devil. It can come from God. But I believe that Spirit came over me and said as follows. Says, you were a little child. You were saved. Your entire family got killed. Mm. Hundreds of my extended family got killed. I have letters that they threw off a train where they said, we don't know where we're going, but we'll be back. They had no concept that it would be taken after their death. But we have those letters given to us before they got to the transit camp. God spoke to me and said, in spirit, I want you to build this. I retired 10 years ago. I became an alderman second time around. I think all these things have happening. I had to become an alderman to make the political connections, to get to know the mayor, to get to know the alderman. And then miraculous things happened.
Right.
I had a resolution unanimously approved by alderman. When's the last time you saw the alderman approve unanimously anything other than some,
not too many things.
other than some attaboy thing?
Right. Yeah.
The Public Works Commission also done necessarily. Unanimous agreement, and I have this all in writing. And when I needed money, the people came out. I'd never met Christians. I've never met before. In fact, I've never met since. And they donated $20,000 out of the clear blue sky. Came to Nashua, met me, wrote me a check for $20,000 and left. I mean, people have volunteered their time and their skills.
There's a reason for that memorial. People need to know that this shouldn't happen again.
There is a black obelisk. It's like it's designed just similar to 2001: Space Odyssey, and I modeled it after that.
I remember that movie.
Okay?
Yep.
Well, if you look at that rectangular thing, that rectangular, it's not a cube. It's a
some kind of a monolith. Right.
It's a monolith.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we modeled this after, and it stands there about 10 feet tall. It's got about the same dimensions, width and depth. As you approach the center sculpture, it says, never forget. Because that's the message. Never forget what happened. And on the other side, as you come back, it says, never again. It's an even more important message. We can talk about the past and say, never forget. But Kevin, it's more important to talk about the future and say, this shall never happen again.
The kids are the kids being brought to the memorial at all? Are the schools making it a field trip?
I've had middle schools on a field trip. I'll be still at the foundation when the entire middle school in Elm Street walked to the memorial. You know, do people really remember what happened? Have they got a vague recollection? Are the kids educated today fully on what happened? It's not totally clear to me. And that's another reason to have this.
Right.
So, you know, I have given presentations in religious schools, and I've given presentations in public schools. And the question I ask when I'm invited to give a presentation to school children, high school kids, middle school kids, not grade school, I think it's too brutal on them. But I say, raise your hand if you think this could have happened, this could happen in the United States of America. In the religious schools, 90%, 9 out of 10 kids will raise their hands and say, yes, yes, this could happen in the United States of America. In the public school, it's about half. What does that tell you? It tells you that as much as we spend on public education, we're not making the kids sufficiently aware of evil that can happen amongst you and suck you into this evil. Religious schools are more aware of this.
I think one of the things that is probably why we're at that level is because there is a vacuum, and I believe that in the public schools, because they've created a vacuum. To call something evil is to put a moral standard, and to have one moral standard of what is right and what is wrong. It seems to escape them. They can't seem. The values have changed. There's no. Our culture has changed. Our schools have created a vacuum. You can't have God. And what bothers me is this. And when you say that, whether you're religious or not, if we're here by accident, we're here by chance, all of a sudden there was just this spontaneous combustion and we appeared. And now there's quantum physics, we've got all these other things going on with the microcosm, and then you've got the entire universe, and it was just the perfect storm that happened. Now, you have a perfect storm. Your life has no meaning. There's no right or wrong. It's survival of the fittest. It's natural selection. And in the animal kingdom, only the strong survive and the weak are eaten or are destroyed. If you take that type of view, then what I want is, because I'm stronger, I can take. And it's not wrong. Your values don't mean anything because I'm stronger than you, therefore I can dominate you. And I think if they actually take this evolution to that point, in my opinion, I think you've got a huge confusion that kids don't understand that in that little vacuum, this little evil comes up and says, I'm powerful and my way is the right way. And all other views, if you do not comply, well, then we'll call you a hater. We'll call you a rat.
Well, let me follow up on that. I lie in bed at night. You know, when you go through this, you know, every night I have to live with the Holocaust.
Right.
When I was younger, I didn't pay attention, but now I'm living it, and I think about this, and I said, Adolf Hitler, where did he come from? And if you listen to Adolf Hitler, he said when he came out of World War I, he actually got a decoration for running around and being a messenger, being shot at. He was shot. He was temporarily blinded with mustard gas. He had a blindfold on. And he said, the Spirit came over me and told me to take over Germany. Now, this guy was a vagabond.
Right.
He was a nobody, had no education. He was brave on his own terms, and that he was shot at, but he was nobody. He lived, he tried to be an architect. He wasn't successful in anything. Now, what happened to him? Well, here's my theory, just carrying on, follow up on what you were saying. The spirit of the devil came over him. How else can you explain that in such a short time,
yeah, he rose to power.
from 23 to 32, he still tried to finagle things. In 32, out of nothing, the Hindenburg called him in and said, why don't you become a chancellor? The theory being, if you call him in between us, we can regulate him, we can control him.
Right, that's right.
And it
That's
called the
right.
devil into them. And now you think about it. How could he from Germany, which was completely devastated as a result of heavy reparations in World War I, with inflations now, you know, you had to pay $1 billion to buy a loaf of bread. There were hundreds of people, you know, little parties, everybody fighting everybody else, no real organization. In a short while, almost in a year, taking complete control of this government.
It was
How
a vacuum.
can one man do that?
Right.
How can one man accomplish that? And my point is, he was the devil's disciple. One man couldn't do it. But if you get the devil to take over a being, and that being becomes the center of evil, as you said earlier, and then people that don't understand what's going on.
There's a vacuum.
Join.
Right.
And they say, well, we have economically depressed, we don't have enough to eat, but this guy promises this, and he promises that, and he promises everything. And lo and behold, we have marched along.
Right.
And then, how did he get the enabling laws passed? When he became chancellor, within 2 weeks, he went to the president of Germany and said, I need some powers to get control. I need you to sign this document that says I get temporary executive powers.
And he never got it back, did he?
And he said, you'll get it for a couple of weeks. What he did in a couple of weeks, he had arrested every communist. Now, the communists were a strong opposition party to the Nazis. Had them all arrested, locked up. He had a minority left, and they voted enabling law. And they said, look, it's all legal. I can take complete control. I have executive power. I got emergency powers.
So today,
and what happened?
We have today, and Gate City Chronicles isn't usually political, but one of the things that has really haunted me, a year and a half ago, President Obama signed the National Defense Act of America, which gave him that very same amount of power. And the House and the Senate passed it as well, so that he could sign that bill. What does that bill do? It allows the executive branch to suspend habeas corpus. It allows the executive branch to say, you're an enemy, or possibly an enemy. The military can come into your home without a warrant, detain you, put you in a concentration camp without legal representation. Yeah. That's the National Defense Act of America. I keep posting it on Facebook. It's haunting me. I don't know why it keeps bothering me. It keeps coming up like, why did we need this in America? Why did we need the executive branch to have the power to arrest somebody, his enemies? Who are the enemies? We're Americans.
The government will manufacture enemies.
Well, that's the
in Hitler.
Right.
How he got attention after he became chancellor, he finagled to burn down the Reichstag. That's like setting fire to the Capitol.
Right.
And then saying,
they did
those guys did it.
Right.
I need the power to arrest them. They create enemies. Now, I'll go further than that, okay? It's not just Democrats, okay?
No.
I know you're Republican, but I don't like the Patriot Act.
I agree.
Because what allows this government to lock people up in Guantanamo Bay and lock them forever without trial? It doesn't take a great deal of imagination to first say, well, we locked the guys with the funny beards and the turbans and the guys that don't speak American, to take the next step and say, well, we found a few funny guys in America.
Yeah.
Why don't we lock them up at the same time? And then after that say, well, why ship to Cuba? Why did it have to be in Cuba?
Why not up
I'll sign an executive order, I'll stick them in a jail, in a prison in New York State.
Yeah, these troublemakers. Well, as a matter of fact, on the NDAA, there were a few Republicans that voted, and I said, please don't vote for this. This is bad. And they voted for it. It's both parties.
Obama just signed executive orders about equality of pay for women. Now, I'm not getting into whether women are equal paid or not. But what authorizes the President of the United States to sign executive orders without congressional approval?
Right. Or change a law, such as the
And that changed the law.
Affordable Care Act has over 32 changes. The fact that the Congress is allowing him, both Democrats and Republicans are allowing him, they're seceding their power. And never in history have I ever seen a president change law.
Assume power. That's exactly what happened to Adolf Hitler. He walked in and says, I need the power to control my enemies. Mm-hmm. What he said is, I need control power to get rid of all the governments that exist.
Right.
The very same government that allowed him to come to power through a semi-pseudo-democratic process, he wiped out to make himself the sole dictator. And then next time he wiped out his own supporters, the brown shirts. Right. Because the army, the German army, very traditionalist army,
They started conspiring. Hey, what's going on?
This guy's a nutcake. We can't deal with him. He says, all these brown shorts you got running down the streets, parading, marching. He says, that's okay. You go along with me, I'll wipe them out. Overnight, the night of the long knives, killed all of his own friends.
You know, it's interesting because when I look back at the history of what we got going on now, I'm not saying Obama's Hitler. I'm nothing like that. But what I am saying is I'm concerned that the executive branch, whoever fills that office at this point, has more power than they deserve. But
it rolls forward. It started seriously with G.W. Bush, okay?
Yeah.
And it rolls forward with Obama. And now, what about the next guy? Yeah. And as Congress bickers and fights, like Germany, bickering and fighting.
Divide and conquer.
And while the fanatics took over, marching the streets, and the ordinary guy trying to make a living says, well, I see all this bickering over there, especially some guys organized over here, and he speaks awfully good. He's an awfully good speaker.
Right.
I can hear he's talking about the master race, and he's blaming the Jews. He's blaming the communists. First they blamed the communists before they blamed the Jews. But the Jews were easy to go after. You know why the Jews were easy to go after? Because the Jews at that time lived in ghettos. They like the Chinese, they kind of liked to live in those days in
communities.
In that community.
Yeah.
In that community.
Right.
So they were easy to take over. And if they had the funny looking, the hair and the funny looking beards and little curls over their ears, all the better. Well, that guy doesn't look like us. He must be a political subversive. Arrest him and send him to Dachau.
And they were very intelligent people. And yet it happened.
Of course it happened.
And you know, now we're seeing aborted babies. I'm against abortion. I think their life. I believe their life. People can disagree. That's fine. That's whatever. But I believe their life. But now hospitals are using them the aborted babies to generate heat. I mean, is that kind of scary?
To generate heat?
Yeah, some of the hospitals, there was an article about one of the hospitals is using the aborted fetuses and limbs and to generate heat for the hospital. I'm thinking, there's a problem with that. There's a real problem with that.
Here's a famous story about Nazism, okay? And I just, late at night, and I have trouble with it. There's a story about, these people go to these trains, hungry, tired, filthy. Can you imagine in the sanitary mess, the filth they were in? And these babies, crying. There's a story, this baby just crying head off. And this Nazi comes up, this woman says, I want you to get that baby to quiet. It's upsetting me. Quiet the baby. And the woman says to him, sir, how do I quiet a baby? It's crying, sick, hungry. It's very easy. Took out his gun and shot the baby.
Mm. This can't happen.
That's the stuff you're talking about. You start easy and it gets more and more and more. You know how many people died on genocide? There were 6 million Jews. They were saying 11 million. I was reading a recent article that says as high as 20 million.
Fred, I got to cut this short. We ran out of time.
Yes.
There's going to be a ribbon cutting.
Yes, we are dedicating the site on 1 June, and I hope everybody attends. It's a small, like I said, it's a half-an-acre area. We have the space. It won't take long. 11 o'clock in the morning, 1 June, Sunday. Be the dedication. It's the first memorial in all of New Hampshire.
Nice. Thank you very much for coming on Gate City Chronicles.
Thank you for inviting me.
I really appreciate it. And thank you for watching Gate City Chronicles. And we hope that June 1st that you will go to the memorial and celebrate the ribbon cutting. It's a dark topic, but it is something that we have to continue to remember. And there's going to be, people that can agree with some of the things that we said or not agree with us, but for one thing we can all agree on is that we do not want this to ever happen again. We don't need a master race. We don't need this type of thing in America or around the globe. So please show your support. Show up and see what, Fred, you've done a wonderful work and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Gate City Chronicles. Until next week, that's it for now. Thank you for watching Gate City Chronicles. And we want to thank our sponsor, Avard Dean of Clean, the carpet cleaner in Nashua. You can reach him at 603-630-1743. And if you would like some more information about Gate City Chronicles or want to be a guest, contact me at gatecitychronicles@gmail.com. Until next week, thanks for watching.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.